Through this presentation, I am aiming to highlight the gender imbalance in Titus and Andronicus through an analysis of the two very different female characters, Lavinia and Tamora. Although they have drastically different dispositions, both are, in a way, at the mercy of men. Lavinia displays the typical obedience that is found in many Shakespearean and similar works of the time, and Tamora, though not as easily categorized, is thought of as a subordinate due to her sexuality. Further, the absence of any bond between women diminishes female authority that could persist and further pushes them to male dependence. Lavinia is a typical example of an objectified woman in Shakespearean time. She is the prized good girl, beautiful, obedient, and silent. These qualities make her the perfect commodity to be used among the male characters. In Act 2, she is literally silenced through barbarous molestation. However, I argue that she has long been silenced, shown through a figurative, quote, rape in Act 1. In Act 1, Scene 1, Bassianus refers to Lavinia as merely an accessory, quote, gracious Lavinia, Rome's rich ornament. The diction of ornament in this statement is significant as it highlights Lavinia as a piece of property. Ornament is defined as, quote, something meant to make another more attractive but lacking any practical purpose. In this case, Lavinia is merely decoration, something that is meant to be admired but lacks respect. Ornament comes up in other Shakespearean works, many times in relation to women. One key usage is in Shakespeare's narrative poem, The Rape of Lucrece. Lucrece is another Roman beauty that, like Lavinia, is sexually violated. Ornament is used to describe her chastity. Similarly, part of Lavinia's charm and beauty is her pureness. This brings up the expectation of women to remain untouched for their future husband. Titus supports this idea when he eventually kills Lavinia, declaring that her shame can die with her. In his mind, her worth is greatly decreased after being raped. In Act 2, Scene 3, Lavinia is raped and viciously defiled by Demetrius and Chiron, so that she cannot disclose who the perpetrators are. However, I argue that she is figuratively silenced from the beginning due to the male superiority persisting in hierarchical Rome. Titus agrees to give Lavinia to Saturninus after naming him emperor, at which point Bassianus declares that she is betrothed to him and makes off with her. Lavinia remains completely silent through the whole debacle, living up to her duty as an object to be passed from man to man. Saturninus even refers to this act of stealing as a rape, and declares that he will be avenged. Quote, thou and thy faction shall repent this rape. Just as she is silenced in Act 2 by her tongue and hands being removed, she is silenced in the metaphorical rape of Scene 1 by simply her gender. As one critic, Alexander Legat, puts it, raped in silence in the wood, she had already been raped in silence in Rome. Tamora, the Empress of the Goths turned Empress of Rome, though starkly contrasts with quiet Lavinia, is still trapped in male-dominated circumstances. Tamora is power-hungry and vengeful. When Titus kills her son, she swears she will take revenge against him. This prospect drives her to accepting Saturninus' request of her being his empress. She tells him that she will do whatever he asks, be, quote, a handmaid to his desires. This introduces the lust-driven disposition, which will eventually come to overshadow her command. Her secret lover, Aaron, in Act 2, Scene 1, enforces the idea that Tamora's sexuality is a defining aspect of her character. During his soliloquy, he refers to their relationship as one of him being in control and in which she is his sexual servant. She is, quote, a prisoner held, fettered in amorous trains and faster bound to Aaron's charming eyes. Here, Aaron strips Tamora of her newfound power, claiming that her attachment to him is what defines her and thus weakens her. His dominance is supported in Act 2, Scene 2, when Aaron denies her sexual play, saying that he's too distracted by the idea of revenge. Although Titus Andronicus has a plot overflowing in vengeance, there are relationships that arise. What is absent is any sense of camaraderie between women. This is especially demonstrated right before the rape of Lavinia in Act 2. Lavinia begs Tamora to show mercy and simply kill her instead of having her be taken and raped by Tamora's sons. She tries to utilize the connection of gender, quote, no grace, no command, no womanhood, she pleads. But Tamora denies her. This lack of alliance further weakens the capabilities of women and reinforces their dependence on men. Titus Andronicus is a male-dominant tale of revenge. As such, I want to close by sharing a particularly interesting adaptation. The Manhattan Shakespeare Project took on one of Shakespeare's goriest plays with an all-female cast. The goal was to foster women in theater through taking on some of the most impressive characters. It was also meant to explore the idea of how the message of the play would change, with women doing unto women what was originally intended to be done by men. I believe that this adaptation is a great way to discuss gender inequality because it emphasizes and promotes analysis of the male stereotypes by having them displayed through women, and thus makes you think more about the societal structure of gender both in past and present. And lastly, here are some questions I want to leave for further discussion. Did Lavinia ever truly have a voice? Is Tamora as merciless as the others who seek revenge in Titus? And does being a woman support or diminish her power? And lastly, what, if anything, is achieved by having two very contrasting female characters?